I had the great blessing, privilege of being raised in a Christian home like these guys. My dad was a pastor in Oklahoma City, and then my parents served as missionaries in Chile for 35 years. So I, like Bernie mentioned, I just never didn't know about Jesus and about church, and went with my dad many times when he was driving to visit churches and talk to pastors. I was just always around that. And when I was 7 years old, at the First Baptist Church in Valparaiso, Chile, you can look that up, Google it. You can even get the satellite look and look at the beautiful city that it is. It's a World Heritage City. And Dad was preaching that night, as in that many other cultures, the Sunday night service is the main service. And he didn't pastor the church. He didn't even work at that church. For some reason, he was preaching that evening. I don't know why. My younger sister had been baptized that evening. They'd had the baptismal service. He was preaching. I do not remember a word of the sermon. I was 7 years old. I wasn't paying attention. When it came time for the invitation, which in that culture sometimes can go a long time also, I remember standing there sensing something. Something calling me, something's got to happen. I need to go forward, talk to Dad, who was just right down there in the front. I started down the aisle, got about 5 steps down there, started crying, turned around, came back, standing next to my mother, and she leaned over and said, "Just going down, talk to your daddy." And I did. I went and he down there, and he explained the message of salvation and the plan of salvation. I prayed, received Christ. I didn't know much. How much do you have to know to be saved? I knew I was a sinner, and I knew I needed Jesus, and that was about all that I needed to know. And baptized sometime later, again in that culture, there's a waiting period, so I was 8 years old when I was baptized. And like Jim, I did my best sinning later on, because become a teenager, become a college student as a young man, and this is even after we were married, never really left the church, just kind of hung around on the edges, but, was searching and reading a lot of stuff and just trying to find the truth or what the truth was. I remember sitting at the dining room table one time. I was in my early 20s, reading my Bible for some reason, and coming to the conclusion that I have got to either believe this or not. I can't pick and choose. It's either true or it's not true. And I realized that of course, being a child of God, I did have the Holy Spirit, and He was telling me, you're going to have to decide. So I decided, okay, this Bible is true. And once I decided on that, started listening to the Holy Spirit, then it began to make sense to me. Sometime later, like Bernie did, assurance issues, am I really saved? Did I know enough? Did I do the right things? Kind of go through all that, and then reading Oswald Chambers one morning in a devotional book where he made it perfectly clear, something that you kind of know in your head, but you have to hear it again, that you're saved because of what Jesus did on the cross, not how much theological knowledge you have. And so okay, that was settled. And then called into ministry sometime later. I was a little bit of a late bloomer. The last page of my resume is quite cluttered with a bunch of stuff. And then that's when we've moved to Fort Worth, and I've been in ministry ever since, and never looked back. Still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I guess I'll be an elder. So now, and I, like these guys, I have been praying for this process ever since it began. I've been praying for my pastor for many, many, many years. Been praying for the group that was going through this. Lord, have them call the right guys. And then I got a text and then a phone call from Mike and Larry, and they want to talk to me about the elder ministry. And I first thought they were looking for my dad, because he's qualified, but not a member of the church. And there's got to be some mistake, but they presented it. We had lunch. For a week, I'll just be honest, for a week I agonized. Is this what you want me to do, Lord? I didn't know. I was shocked. I was completely surprised that this was even an option. But there was no Roman road, Damascus road experience. There was no bolt from heaven telling me to do this, but there was no reason I should not do it. And that's what I said. Unless the Lord tells me no, I have to say yes. And he didn't say no, so I said yes. And just the experience this morning has, just once again confirmed and affirmed that yes, this is the right thing. This is the right time for the church, for me. I'm overwhelmed. I think all of us are a little bit overwhelmed. We haven't done this before. Well, you have, Jim. You're in charge. We're going to ask you what to do. But we're overwhelmed because and Mike has stated this to the congregation, for all of you as you consider this and as you prayerfully consider us and the next step in voting, this is serious business, and that's exactly right. And I think that's why all of us are a little bit overwhelmed and appropriately scared because I can't speak for these guys, but I bet they would amen this. I can't do this. I can't do it. It's only the Holy Spirit in me that anything good is going to come out of this. And so I'll just have to keep trusting in Him and depending on Him and a lot of prayer and listen to my wife a little bit every now and then and that Holy Spirit embodied kind of thing. And I think we'll be okay. But I'm looking forward to it, and I thank you so much for the opportunity to be a candidate.